Turning to education, thousands of parents in New York are pulling their children out of the controversial new Common Core tests. They began on Monday, with 3 schools in Brooklyn having more than 70% of students opting out. And it's happening across the country, with parents and kids taking a stand against similar tests in their states. Joining us here in New York is a nearly 20-year veteran of the education sector, Takiema Bunche. She's a former teacher and a curriculum and assessment expert based here in New York City. She's also a mother whose 8-year-old opted out of the standardized exams. It's good to have you with us, Takiema. And I want to start with your son, 8 years old,
He's 8
third
years
grader,
old.
And that's one of your objections to all this, is you don't think that these standardized tests are age appropriate.
They absolutely are not appropriate for 8, 9, or 10-year-olds. And I'll start by telling you, I taught third grade before, and there was nothing that I needed 7 hours over 6 days to find out what my child knew or my children knew about in reading and math. I mean, these tests go on for so long. Why do you need that much time?
And you're concerned about the stress that it's involved too, because they really are feeling the stress.
Extremely stressed. I hear from parents all the time. One parent told me yesterday her daughter cries every time she picks up a pencil because she's so concerned that she's a bad writer, and she's 8 years old.
Is your objection just to the testing, or is it the Common Core itself?
It's actually to high-stakes testing. I'm not opposed to assessing children to find out what they know, because we use assessments to then teach. These tests are high stakes. They are tied to teacher evaluations. The results come out over the summer after the school year's ended, so no one can use that information. And it's also just a number. The parents get no information to know, how can I actually help my child? So I don't agree with the high stakes.
So you don't have a problem with the standards involved in Common Core itself and what they're trying to teach, because what they profess to do is, what they're trying to do is to make sure that all children have a certain level of education, of proficiency in these subjects by the time they graduate from high school.
Yeah, what I want to say is that there's nothing wrong with standards, and high quality schools have always had standards, but those standards are set by experts in the field, the teachers and the administrations, the community, who can really reflect what we know children need to be learning and doing. And so it's fine to have a conversation about standards. It's silly to attach funding and teacher evaluations to one test. It just doesn't make sense. It's illogical.
Yeah, because as you know, all these studies of where America ranks among developed countries when it comes to education, we're doing terribly. We're really kind of near the bottom. So if we do implement Common Core as it's expected, you know, New York adopted it early, but it's going to spread to most of the country soon enough. How then do you figure out whether it's working or not if we don't have these tests?
Well, I'm glad you brought up other countries, because I've been talking to people about schools in Finland and Sweden and other countries where they really invest in education, unlike the United States. I think that's where we really need to start. We need to address poverty in this country, unequal access to high quality schools, and then we can talk about what's actually happening in communities and in schools. We can't test our way into high standards. We can't test our way into high academic achievement. It just doesn't work.
And you're concerned, as somebody who will have been with state implemented programs, is that teachers are teaching to the test and not really focusing on kids' learning?
Absolutely. I mean, you would teach to the test if you were going to be judged based on your children's performance. Again, just common sense. So now children are not getting science, they're not getting trips, they're not learning how to talk to each other and problem solve. And I tell you, I don't want to live in a nation where people can't figure out how to communicate and express themselves and do art and do music and do science and other things in addition to English and math.
And that's part of the problem you see too, is that the testing and all this is leading to important subjects being ignored.
They're completely being ignored, cut out, and just children are getting the sense that they're not important at all. The other thing that's happening is that this test, the pressure to do well on the test is being pushed down to children younger and younger and younger. So we have kindergartners talking about tests and being afraid that they're not going to be able to cut it. You know that saying now, people are saying kindergarten is the new first grade, and you sort of chuckle about it, but it's ridiculous. It is not. Children are still 5 in kindergarten, and we need to treat them as such and be developmentally appropriate.
Because it is incredible that 8-year-olds are concerned about this.
They are more than concerned. They're terrified, they're stressed, they're, you know, we heard reports of children vomiting. I mean, there's so many terrible things associated with these.
Quickly, what do you think parents should do?
Parents should educate themselves. Go to changethestakes.org. There's a lot of information there for parents, and we try to really make the information accessible to people. We have a great video where parents are talking about why we chose to opt our own children out. Diane Ravitch on her blog has so much information every single day. There are more dots to be connected, and I just really urge parents to do the work,
go out there and get educated.
do the work, and find out so that you can advocate for your children.
Takiema Bunche, it's really a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank
Thanks very
you
much.
so much, Antonio.
Time now to see what's trending on Aljazeera America's website. Let's check back in with Hermela.